Right, welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the MC6 from Morningstar combined with the +4 from Gigrig. It's a programmable, effectively it's a programmable looper, one button control over 8 loops. I made a video on how I programmed this a couple of weeks ago. I've been using it now for those 2 weeks, and I thought it'd be interesting to do an update and 5 lessons that I have from living with this setup now. So let's take a look at how it's configured. Here we have the basic setup that I have established in the last video. Guitar in to the first of the +4s, right through the 4 loops available there, all MIDI controlled. Signal out into the second +4 here, right, and 4 loops, and then out to the amplifier. Controlled by the Morningstar. MIDI channel 1 for the first +4, MIDI channel 2 for the second, and then Timeline and BigSky on channels 3 and 4. And that means we can do independent control of all those devices. What I've also done since then is I've put a Gigrig humdinger into the signal path. So now we come out of the first +4 into the humdinger, out of the humdinger into one amplifier, which carries all of the fuzz, distortions, compression effects. So, you know, the dry amplifier, although it's not dry. And then we have the other output on the humdinger picking up. So it picks up all the distortion effects and the wet effects, and it puts those out to the second amplifier. So one of them has both, and one of them only has the dry signal on top. At the moment, that is running out to Victory V40s, Zilla 2x12, dry in the top amp into the top speaker, wet into the bottom amp into the bottom speaker, and that's what we'll be recording with today. So we've got, let's think, fuzz, loop 1, distortion, compression, so 1, 2, 3, 4, chorus, flanger, delay, reverb. Actually not using, probably not going to play all of these today, but it's, you know, this is just for completeness in terms of what's there. So what I've done with the MC6 now is I've put all of the loops on one bank, and I'm toggling between the pages, and I found that was a little neater than banking up and down, particularly if you're using these 2 buttons, and I'll come back to that. So you can see that they're set fuzz, distortion, compression. We toggle compressor on and off, and so the names change with the toggle setting on the MC6. It's nice. And because we're using the Timeline and the BigSky, I've also put a few presets onto another bank. So slapback, dirty slapback. I think they've got slightly different names. There's an Echoplex, but this is just what I called them. And let's go back down. BigSky, room hall, short plate, fuller plate, spring, you know, and some more swelly, bloomy type reverbs, and the non-linear on there. So a few different ones, a few different presets to access, and that's the beauty of using the MC6. Let's take a quick look at the 8 loop programming. This is covered in detail on a different video, but just where did it settle, and if you know how to program the MC6, it's pretty straightforward. You might want to jump ahead. But here we have our 8 loop bank, and we have the foot switches A, B, C, D, E, F, and the second page on that, which is effectively the repeating A, B, C, D, E, F. So page 2 on F, top right hand side, that has the toggle page option. So just on press, toggle page, and we call that page 2, and then that would toggle to show us this chorus, flanger, delay, reverb, and page 1, where we can toggle back again. So in this one, we've named the pedals. We have fuzz, this fiery serpent high gain, compressor, chorus, flanger, delay, so on and so forth. And we have, in the short name, we have fuzz, and then in the toggle name, when you press it, you have fuzz on. So you toggle between fuzz and fuzz ons. When you look down, you can see that. I mean, obviously, you should be able to hear it, right? And we use the control changes to do that. So control change 80, like in the +4 MIDI implementation, with a value of 127, like sent to MIDI channel 1, which is where we have our first +4, and that is on, and then we are in toggle mode. So when we press the toggle, we jump between position 1 and position 2. So position 1 is on, and position 2 is off, which is control change 80, but value 1 going to the same device. And so then we have 80, 81, 82, 83, exactly the same pattern. And on the second page, we have the same thing repeated, but we go this time to MIDI channel 2, which is where our second +4 is, which is effectively our loops 5, 6, 7, 8. So 80, 81, 82, 83, all toggling between the on and off command there. We have also got this all off command, and that is actually sent to both channel 1 and channel 2 right here. So on both pages you can turn all the loops off. There isn't an all loops on. I decided not to. I'm using this really as a, it's got out of hand, just come down to the clean guitar signal and take any feedback or other noise out of there. So all off is program change 10, and we don't need to do toggle mode for that. We just have off. So we just press it, it turns them off. It sends the same message to both +4s, and that is the basic preset. Because we can also control the timeline and the BigSky presets, like select preset selection using program changes, then I also created a bank for each of those and selected I think 10 on each, because we also have, if we look at this one here, the timeline preset, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a page 2, same as before, toggles page 2, and then we have 5 on the second page. And you select those using program changes. So it's very simple. It's probably so simple that it doesn't need explanation, but let's just do it for completeness. The way to do the maths for the timeline, if you haven't found a guide that's just written out the numbers, is to think of them in groups of 8 and subtract 1, because the counter starts at 0. So the first preset, like bank 00A, mellow digital, the very first thing you get when you turn it on in factory settings is program change 0. Then you get program change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And why I say think of it in those groups of 8 is because I think the timeline manual's just laid out like this: 2, 4, 6, 8. So then the next one starts at 8, 9, 10, 11, and you can just go through the manual, find the one you want, and do your maths, right? So here, mellow digital is program change 0. We're sending it to the timeline, which for us is MIDI channel 3. And you can, to make it easier in the programming, you can, on controller settings, you can name, edit MIDI channel settings here. You can name the MIDI channel. So MIDI channel 1 is our +4 1 to 4 loops. MIDI channel 2 +4 5 to 8 loops. Timeline is MIDI channel 3. Channel 4 is BigSky. We set the device itself. I did something else where I had an H9 on channel 9. Probably another H9 on a different channel. And the MC6 itself I set on channel 16 if I wanted to send bank up and down messages to it from a different MIDI device. So that's a useful thing to know about. So basically then we have Mellow, which was our Mellow Digital program change number 0. Let's see. Right, we have Dirty Slapback program change number 16. Bright Bucket is program change 23, and I've just worked those out using the manual in the way that I said. Similarly, we have BigSky presets. So similar layout, 5, flick to the next page, 5, flick back to the first page. And the BigSky numbering convention is very similar, but again, the manual is organized in those, every page is 8. So basically 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 8. I always subtract 1. So then you can think of this next one. It's going to start on 8. And the last one on the page is going to be 15 because it's 16 minus 1. So that's 15. So that would be, so and then you can just go through based on what page you're on. I set myself, I just labeled them up like this, and you can do the maths quite easily. It's a bit tedious. There's probably a file online again that you can find. I didn't find it on the Strymon website that just gives you the program changes just numbered like that. Anyway, same thing, press, program change, sent to our MIDI channel here. And as you see, the names that we were just looking at come out on there. So 1 to 4, 5 to 8, Timeline, BigSky, so on and so forth. And so it's pretty simple. That gives us our 8 loops and our timeline presets. That was the 8 loop example where I named the pedals and flicked between the name and on. I think I have a generic one with numbers only here. So yeah, it just says, well, the first part is numbers only. So loop 1 on, loop 2 on. So, you know, whatever, however you want to configure that. All right. There's a separate video that talks about how you might control multiple pedals at the same time for song parts and things like that. But you need to go check that out. If I know how to do that thing, I'll put it in here, but I don't think I do. So that's the basic implementation, the 8 loops, the BigSky presets, and timeline. There is a timeline looper that we'll come to, and how that loop has been implemented and the things that I did to make that work. So lesson number 1, I've put this dual foot switch in on expression 2, and you can just configure that as a switch, and I'm using that for bank up and bank down, as you can see. And so my first lesson is that these bank up and down, sort of pressing 2 at the same time works nicely. There is a risk sometimes you just mistime it and you turn on one of the loops by accident, and that, you know, and then you have to figure out why it doesn't sound the way you want it to and undo that. So it's easier actually to bank up and bank down separately, and then not use that double press at all on here. In the video, I used the Knox foot switch for bank up and bank down. It's in the expression pedal 2, which is Omniport 2. It's labeled on the back of mine expression port, but they call them Omniports now, and that's because you can decide what you want them to do. Expression pedal, if you want to just send MIDI out of a TRS on there, you can do that. So you've got some options like this. Here we're using TRS auxiliary switch setting, and we pick bank up and bank down, and we have only got tip and ring on here, but you could have tip plus ring as well if set for something. I haven't done that. So we can, that's how we configure the bank up, back down, bank up and bank down with the Footswitch on the Omni port. Lesson number 2, and I guess this probably really shows my ignorance maybe, or you know, what I've learned about the MC6, even though I've had it a long time. I have learnt that I can limit the number of banks that are actually visible on the device. Here I'm running 4 banks, I think. Yeah, so the banks loop through the 8 loops. We'll come to this. I've implemented the Timeline Looper. I've implemented the BigSky presets and the Timeline presets, and that's it. And so I'm only cycling through like the 4. I didn't know about this before. I was finding sometimes I was banking up and down by accident, and with the 2 buttons, and it was ending up with lots of empty banks, and it was a real mess. So yeah, really nice, very simple. You probably know about it, so it's great. Let's take a look now at how custom bank order works on the Morningstar MC6. You can control the settings. Go down to bank arrangement. This is important. This feature will not work when the device is in editor mode. It will only be enabled once you exit editor mode on your device. These are all the banks. These are all the banks we have, so 30 banks. And these are the ones that we were using in our demo. And I'm just going to, for an example, I'm just going to take the Timeline Looper out, and I'm going to take the 8 loops out as well for the purposes of this demo. I've just got Timeline presets, BigSky presets. Actually, no, I'm going to put the Timeline Looper back in. So I've got Timeline presets, BigSky presets, and Timeline Looper, and I'm going to save settings. And now if we unplug the USB from it, and we need to power it up actually, because it's only powered by USB. So we turn the power on. Right, so we turn the power on. And now we only have bank 2, bank 3, bank 1. That's it. This is my MC6 Timeline Looper setup. So first of all, we have enter, and enter will take us into looper mode. We'll just hold that down, but you can see on the timeline it's looper, and the tap 1 light turns red. So that's the first thing. And then we have that toggles to exit. Then we've got record and overdub, play and stop, all on separate controls, and undo and stop toggles with a clear command, which I'll show shortly. And then on the second page, reverse the loop or half speed for the loop. Let's record a loop, show the controls, and get the undo and clear working. can stop everything. You can see before we can undo the last thing and then replay it. We haven't. And we can clear everything with this clear command. And look, now it doesn't play anymore. So at the end of all of that, lesson 3, you can use the MC6 to send multiple commands with the press of one button. And I used that to implement this clear command. And I'll show how the programming works there. But what that allows us to do is to do something that's a little bit trickier on the looper itself, and to put one button in for clear. Let's walk through how I've implemented the timeline looper controls on the MC6. This is my one bank. After some trial and error, this is how I chose to lay it out. I tried some of these commands in different toggles and they didn't work so well. So this is what I settled on that worked for me. The first thing that I do is I enter looper mode on the timeline. And on the timeline itself, you do that by holding down the tap tempo button. And then you see it says looper on the display. And we do that, we effectively recreate that activity, but on the MC6. And the reason we do that is because it's the MC6 control that's going to be potentially at our feet, or in my scenario where the timeline is now on the desktop, it's the MC6 that's at my feet. Or if I had that if I put my pedal board away and only had this at the front of the stage, the MC6, same thing. I need to be able to go into looper mode. So we have enter and exit in the 2 toggle states. So when I hit enter, I'm presented with the exit command on the Footswitch E, and when I hit exit, I'm presented with the enter command. First thing that I do actually here is I send a message to MIDI channel 2, which is the 2nd +4, and I turn on the 3rd loop, which is the loop that the timeline's in. So 3rd loop 80, 81, 82. So CC82 turns on the 3rd loop. The next thing I do, this is all done just by pressing this button once, is I put the MC6 into something called looper mode. And looper mode is basically a low latency control state. I think it might disable the bank up, back down, BC like things. You can't bank up and bank down by pressing B and C together, or A and B together. And you get immediate response from the buttons. And what's good about that is that you are recording a loop and you want to do it in time, so you don't want it thinking, oh, am I wait? You don't want the MC6 waiting to see if anything else is going to be messaged. You just want it to feel that and turn on record. And then CC81 is the tap foot switch, and you have 0 on and 0 off, and on is 27. There are 2 values. So we actually, after a bit of trial and error, I ended up sending them this way around, and it works every time. In other combinations, sometimes it gets stuck. I'm not sure I understand totally why, and I haven't thought that hard about it, but this works. So I send 81 0, and I hold that down, and then when I release it, I hold it down and I see the display change to show it's gone into looper, and then when I release it, I send 127, and that seems to reset the tap tempo button in a way that then when I do the revert, when I do that again, I can exit, and that does work. And basically it's pretty straightforward. You just have to hold it down. We saw that in the video. But I found that if I didn't send the 127 on release, it gets stuck with the message exit still on the screen. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because maybe it has exited, and what's actually happening is just one other quick tap of the tap tempo button is as if you were starting to tap something in. Maybe I haven't checked whether it's changed time. So that works for me. So we have enter. After enter, the next thing we would want to do is want to record a loop. To record a loop, we use CC87. I think you can send any value. I'm sending 127, same MIDI channel 3. I don't need this in a toggle mode. I mean, I could have toggled into record dub, but it doesn't always work that well when you're trying to control other states. So it's best you can just think of it as record or overdub. So if I'm playing a loop, it will overdub. If I'm got no loop, it'll start the recording process. So the sequence for recording a loop is record 87, and then I want to hear it repeating. So I send 86, and I also send another message, which is a set toggle change, and I'll cover that later because that's one of my lessons, and I like the way it's something I use to swap between a stop and a clear command that I created, but we'll cover that separately. So record, and I hit play, and then 86 will be playing the loop. Then I can choose to overdub. So I could go back and hit 87 and then it would overdub something. If I don't like what I overdubbed, I want to undo, and I do undo using, I send CC89, again, simple press, and that removes what I overdubbed. Or it could be that I'm finished, or I just want to stop for another reason, and I can use 85, CC85 to stop. So that is CC85, say any value sent to the time for me, MIDI channel 3 for the timeline, and that stops. This one then toggles into the clear command that I created, and I'll go into that set toggle thing between play and stop separately, but let's talk about what clear does. What clear does is clear removes all the audio from the loop, and the way that it does that, there isn't a clear command in there's record, play, stop, reverse, half, full speed, undo, redo. I didn't implement redo, but there's undo, redo. I figured if I didn't like it, I just didn't like it, so I just got rid of it. And so there's no way to just clear out the loop. The way you do that, if you're using the timeline, the way I do that using the timeline is I stop, and then I click record, and that records silence effectively, and I click stop, and it stops. And so I've just implemented that to be one button here, which is I'm in the state where I'm stopped, because that's the toggle state, so there's no loop playing. I hit 87 to record, and then immediately afterwards I send 85 to stop, and that just clears out whatever was in the loop. And so if I click play, there's nothing there, so I can't accidentally play something that I don't want to. And that's a basic record, play, stop, undo. Then I can go to page 2, so press toggle page. That toggles me to the second page. G is what you would see on Footswitch A on the device, and I have reverse for that. So CC 94, and 94 is a toggle on the timeline between reversing the loop and then hearing it back the right way around, or the original way that it was recorded. I didn't use a toggle name for that because couldn't come up with something that I really liked as a description, basically. But I know that that's reverse, and if I hit reverse again, I'll hear it like the right way round. But on half speed, I did use the toggle name, so I swapped the toggle mode is on, and you send CC95, and that sets half speed playback. And then if you press it again, so it's the same command in both positions on the toggle, and all that's happening is the name is changing half to full. If you press it again, you go back to full speed or original speed, or maybe one, instead of 0.5 or something. I called it full. So we're back to full speed, and we're toggling with that. And then we have page 1 that toggles the page and would take us back to the A, B, C, D here. When I have nothing, when I've got a bank that I like, I delete out the names. So instead of leaving that empty, which I think just is a bit untidy to look at, I take out I, J, and K, and I just have it blank. So it's the only commands you see on that screen are reverse, half, and page 1 to go back. And that is the way that I've implemented the timeline looper commands on the MC6. I will cover how set toggle works with that stop and clear command and how it interacts with play in a little segment later in the video. The fourth lesson is the use of toggle set or toggle groups. So what's interesting here is when we click play, we want to be able to stop. All right. So then I've got stop. I hit stop. Stop opens up the clear command, because I can only clear when I'm in a stopped situation. Otherwise, I'm using undo to take the last thing that I recorded off. So I can only clear when I've stopped. And then so I can now do clear, but I might choose not to clear. I might choose just to play again. I'll play the loop again. That I don't want to be using the clear command. I want to be back on stop. So the toggle set, toggle group allows me to toggle the command and the name on the C controller from the B controller. So when I'm playing, I've always got stop as an option. When I'm stopped, I've always got clear as an option. As soon as I go play again, I get stop back as an option. Hopefully that's clear. Super useful. You can change the toggle state of a different preset on a different foot switch using the commands toggle set or toggle group. I don't want to have the clear command showing unless I'm stopped. And when I'm in the play state, clear is no use to me. So when I'm in the play state, I just want stop. So I click play. Whenever I click play on B, I see stop. Basically, move the toggle. I set the toggle to the disengaged toggle position on C, and on C, the disengaged toggle position is effectively position 1. So that is choosing the stop command. So that's how those two interact. You can also use this thing called toggle group to do that, and you can put things into a toggle group. So when you hit one command, the toggle group knows to toggle the other preset. But I did it using the set toggle like command. Hopefully that makes sense. I think this is a good example of when you might want to do that. So that's why I decided to video it. I think it was a good lesson for me, and I think it's clear on here how that works. Lesson 5 relates to how I've chosen to program the delay bypass. So let's come out of looper mode here. So let's exit looper mode. There we go. So I've exited looper mode here, and we're going to go down to just the 8 loops. So here we could turn, let's turn that distortion off. We've got compressor on still. So 9 nothing now, just. But if I turn the fuzz on, basically the pedal's always on with the looper, and you just turn the loop on and off that allows you to listen to it. But with the delay pedal, that isn't always so useful. So let's turn the delay pedal on. Now, if I was using a delay with a lot of trails, if I just turn this off, as in turn the loop off, the delay would still be doing its thing. I just wouldn't be able to hear it. And then when I go back and turn the loop back on, it's still potentially doing the last thing it was doing, even if it's a long way down the trail. And that can give you a little bit of unexpected noise or feedback or something you just didn't want to hear. So because you've got so much control with MIDI of the functions on the timeline, for delay, you'll see that I've implemented that the bypass goes on and off when the loop also turns on and off. So if you watch the bypass here on B, turns on. We're not in Vision, but the +4 loop has turned on as well. And when I turn the delay off, you see that the bypass has gone off. And I think, I mean, that was a big lesson for me. It was pretty messy before, and this just tidies things up a lot. So it's interesting. This one isn't a lesson, but I've also implemented the expression pedal to control the repeats on the delay, so we can build up quite a recap. 5 lessons. 1, bank up and down is easier with an external foot switch. Allows you to keep these main buttons for turning the loops on and off, capturing your presets, and not accidentally turning something on and off when you're banking up and down. So that's lesson 1. Lesson 2, custom bank order. So limit the number of banks that you actually want to see. So only 4. We're cycling through 4 there. Nice and neat, nice and clean. Lesson 3, use multiple MIDI commands on the from the same button, and that allows us to do things like we created the clear command earlier. 4, toggle set or toggle group, so that you can control the toggle state of a different preset than the one that you're actually pressing, and keep things nice in sync. Worked really nicely on that looper example, I think. And 5, when you're using the MIDI control to turn a loop on and off with a delay in it, if you can, it may make sense to control the delay bypass at the same time, so that you are limiting the risk of unexpected trails reappearing later. So those are the 5 lessons. This is nice and simple. You've got access to change of controls at desktop level. You can turn things on and off with a foot switch. You've only got 1 cable for power and 1 cable for MIDI, so it's kind of quite neat on the floor. Previously, I was using this really old Quartermaster 10, and every single loop had to have had a it was going out to a snake for the patches and coming up here. I had a lot more cables. It's really simplified this. Really nice in the studio here. But might be interesting to think about how to make it more portable. and whether there's a way of setting that up like to sit on top of that 2x12 cabinet. So I've got a Synergy power amp. It's like a rack format. It's got 2 channels, and I've got two Kingsley preamp pedals that work really nicely with that. Sound fantastic. So maybe that, and then with the pedals in a drawer or something, could sit on top of the cabinet, and that would give you a way of taking it around. I mean, the problem is the power amp's incredibly heavy, but that's an option might have a look at. I am going to also take a look at whether I can use a Line 6 FBV shortboard, which is a controller a lot of people have got. I had one lying around from years back, and try that with the +4s as well, because what I like about this is the idea you've got a MIDI controller already, and maybe this is going to give you a little bit more programmable control, you know, in a maybe a slightly more cost-effective way, or in a more affordable way for people who like the idea of one-touch control, but can't afford to shell out for a whole looper system. If you did watch to the end, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it, and you know, check out the next videos that should be coming up shortly.